Today's episode is being brought to you by Shop96, vintage gear plus retro merch. Available now on grustlemedia.com/shop. Please visit our guest website, leblam.com. That's LEBLAM.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Convo. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is D. Bell, the media arts specialist. You are watching and listening to the Convo podcast. Right now, I got my brother in the building, Jason Rican Dapp Gomez, owner of leblam.com, entrepreneur extraordinaire. You know, this brother has really inspired me personally, and I wanted to have you on the Convo podcast because this is where we interview extraordinary people with extraordinary stories, and your story definitely has, once again, inspired and motivated me because you have done some great things, my brother, and you continue to do great things. So shout out to you, and once again, thank you for being a guest here on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you. I've seen some of your journey myself, man, and you got one hell of a ride.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Today's show is sponsored by Shop96. I just opened up my own little personal boutique of retro merch and vintage gear. And, you know, you can cop stuff like this right now on the site. This is my Atlanta 1996 collection, and I just kind of curated and put together a couple pieces that I thought was fire. And now I want to, you know, put them out there to the world, man. So shout out to Shop96, grustlemedia.com. And we're going to talk to this brother, the maker and purveyor of goods. You know what I'm saying? leblam.com, man. This is
bro.
This is amazing, man. I want you to talk to us a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship. You know, what got you motivated initially to become an entrepreneur?
And I hate to sound cliche, but I mean, this is something that I've been doing since I was a kid, man. It's just like, you know, we come from a community that doesn't have much sometimes.
Absolutely.
So you find ways. So, I mean, I've sold everything from fitteds to weight loss drinks, bro.
Wow.
I mean, I've sold like my pieces. I mean, like street art. I mean, I made like custom clothes in middle school and high school.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it's just like anything that looks like people are into, even Polaroids. When I sold disposable Polaroids at one point, bro.
Wow.
It's like, it's like whatever can make ends meet, man. And you know, and through that journey, you know, you start to figure out things that make you happy and things that you want to be a part of. And making things like shoes, clothes, and I see the happiness it brings me and other people. That's really what inspires me.
Absolutely, man. I see right now on the site you got the handcrafted Air Jordan 1 SBs. Are those things that people can reach out for and get custom colors and all that cool stuff?
Yeah, even Travis. You know, I've been getting a lot of requests for Travis, especially like Travis Scott lows. Like, and it's interesting because you would think because it's handmade, bespoke, you know, and it's tailored towards the person. That maybe someone will say, well, you know, is that from Nike? And it's like, well, when you buy a bespoke pair of shoes, is that from Cole Haan? You know, is that from Johnston and Murphy? No, it's like, it's from the artisan. So Absolutely. It's like, these are your shoes. You know, this is your dreams. This is like a collaboration between, you know, two parties. So it's like, I want to help people have, you know, what their vision of their style and what makes them like who they are. I want that to be expressed in the work that I can do for them.
Very cool, man. And first and foremost, man, we have to talk about the journey, the Boricuas in Beijing. You know,
man, you took it back.
I mean, because to me, you know, it was just so amazing for to be an American from the urban neighborhoods that we come from to take a chance and to just go, you know. And I know you planned it out, but how? Explain to us what brought you to Beijing initially, and then afterwards bringing your entire, you know, your family, your close relatives out there. How did that happen?
Well, it was tough. It was tough. I mean, when I landed, I'll start with when I landed. I had to look around and think to myself, like, was this the right play? You know, like, was this the right move? Just because it's like, it was the first time I was in a situation where nothing was familiar. Like look around, the words are different. The way they construct their buildings are different. Their cars are different. Right. The way people are interacting are different. The mannerisms, it's like, whoa, like I'm really in a new space. Like, and I don't want to say an alien world, but it did feel like a different planet in a lot of ways. So what brought me there was I actually was working in finance. Mm-hmm. So I was there for the crash in 08. Okay. So at one point I was a registered representative. So I had a Series 7, Series 63. Mm-hmm. So I was a stockbroker, and I was on the street when all of this was happening, when it was just like a meltdown. Wow. And all I could think to myself was, I missed the train, right? It's like, I'm young, I'm on Wall Street, everyone made money but me, right? So just like, man, like it's like they served me the platter and then they pulled it away before I could eat. Mm. And I was like, you know what? I have to look at this as an opportunity to just do something different, like step out of my comfort zone and just try. Right. So I went down to the consulate, the Chinese consulate on 42nd Street. And it's like on 42nd and like the West Side Highway. Okay. So I went down there and I asked them, I said, do you guys have anything going on? Do you have any programs? Do you have anything that can get me over to China? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, we have some study abroad programs and some scholarships. So, okay, I looked at it. I missed the deadline. It was too late when I found out about it. So I gathered up all my documents and I marinated for a year. I just kept it in my head. Yeah, I wrote everything. My application was done 1 year ahead. Wow. Everything was lined up. Mm-hmm. So then I applied, and it was for graduate studies in China, and it's for 2 years, right? Right. So I sent the application. They responded in a month, and they were like, we're going to award you the full scholarship. So I became like a Chinese scholar, due to the financial, meltdown of 08. It was like, all right, I guess I'm a Chinese scholar now, right? So yeah, I accepted. And at first they wanted to send me to Sichuan, right? So Sichuan is like where the pandas are. That's okay. So that's Western China. So they were like, oh, would you be open to going over there? Mm-hmm. They didn't speak any English. They didn't have anything, that was kind of like a bridge between our cultures. I was like, I don't know,
and did
man.
You speak the language? Not to cut you off, but what was your understanding? Okay.
No, I had very little. I mean, I was interested in the culture. So like sometimes I would go and I would sit in on some lectures at the New York Public Library at it was called the Donnell Library at the time. This now is called something else, right? Right. But the Donnell Library on it's like 43rd and like 5th. Mm-hmm. I applied. I would go and sit in on some Chinese lectures. So they would have lectures sometimes, and they would just have some basic Chinese. Not that it was much, but it was like real super basic Chinese. And I was like, okay, it's starting to sound familiar after a while. And once a week I'd go sit in and I'd listen to some seminars. They'd have guest speakers talk about traveling in Asia. So, I got to give a shout out to the New York Public Library, man. Like I really benefited from their programs. Yeah. It's
that was all free?
It was free, man. It was free. You go sit in and you just learn about a new place. So I sat in, and then while I was there, they had a seminar on Alibaba. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking 2013. It's like, this is kind of, it's not early, but it's pretty early. Yeah. At this point, it's like 2013.
Okay.
So I hear this seminar on Alibaba, and they're like, there's big Chinese companies starting up. And this is like how I started to learn more about the place while I was thinking about applying. Mm-hmm. And I ran into someone, and he was actually a black dude from Brooklyn. And I looked at him, and he's like, I went to China and I bought toys. And I looked at this dude and I'm like, no one here has gone to China, but I want to go. And there's somebody that is from my community and he went to China. Yeah. I was like, I have to talk to this dude, man. I was like, I have to talk to him. Wow. So I ran up to him at the end and I was like, yo, what did you do in China? And like, so then he just gave me a couple gems. He was like, look, I've just jumped on a plane. I tried it out. So again, shout out to the public library, right? It connected, like-minded people.
Yeah.
So, I had a little bit of an idea, like, okay, it is doable. Somebody from our community did go, didn't have anyone like that he could lean on, and he figured it out. So that's when I applied. I made it over to Sichuan. I made it over, and I ended up in a city called Guangzhou. And it turns out Guangzhou is like, it used to be called Canton in the colonial era, and that's where the Opium War started. And yeah, so there's a lot of history in that town. But it also turns out that Guangzhou has the largest African community. Like, it has the largest like African community in Asia is in this particular city.
Wow.
So again, it's like you never know where you end up. So you know, I ended up in the melting pot of China, where it's like the biggest like mixture of just like different cultures trading. Like, you had people doing business from like the Middle East. Right. You know, you had like you had Arabs, you had Jews, you had all kinds of different groups all working together. You had every part of Africa was there, and they were all trading.
How cool, man.
Yeah, so you know, it's just like it took 08 meltdown to get to the New York Public Library, to learn a little bit about a different culture, sit in on some lectures, apply, end up a Chinese scholar, and somehow I'm in like the most diverse city in China.
Wow. And then you ended up bringing your family as well, you know, and it was just, I wish that you guys filmed a documentary. I don't know how much footage you guys have, but it was just such an inspiration to see brothers that I know from around the way out in such a foreign area and having a great time, like, you know, and learning. You guys were like, it was just such a phenomenal thing to see, you know, it really was.
Well, I mean, I have to give all credit to them because, again, like, it took a lot of courage for them to even come out there to meet me halfway, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I have to show them around, and you know, I'm happy to do so. But it takes a lot of courage, like you said, to come from culture where we don't really get over to Asia that way, unless you're in the service, right? You're in the Navy, or you're a merchant marine or something, or you're a flight attendant. You're probably not going to China or that part of the world. It's just not something we do normally.
Right.
So for them to take that chance and to trust me enough to, you know, to guide them, you know, I was also very appreciative of them for their trust in me. Absolutely,
man. Initially, when I did purchase a couple items from back in the days. You had like,
you did.
Pins,
appreciate that. Yeah. You're an early supporter.
That.
I appreciate you.
No, like one of my favorite pieces, you did like a from the Spike Lee movie, Do the Right Thing, and you had a radio brother, man, and that like that's on my refrigerator, bro. Like that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And you put so much detail into that. You know, and even what you have up now with the Jordan 1s, you know, the Puerto Rican Jordan 1s 21, like those are fire. What is your inspiration?
I appreciate it.
Where do you draw? Yeah, show us those, man. Yeah. Crazy, bro.
Yeah, try. Yeah.
Where do you get the inspiration from these things?
Well, it's like it goes back to how we grow up, man. It's like we're from New York, so we have a certain aesthetic. Like, we just grow up wanting to look nice, wanting to dress nice, man. It's like, you know, we come from a culture, and I think I could speak for a lot of us, where I said, you know, when you go outside, even to the store, you want to look a certain way. You know, you just have to be put together. It doesn't mean you have to be, you know, you got to put your Sunday best on, but you have to be presentable. You never know who you're going to see outside. So that carries on, and it carries with you. So it doesn't matter, you know, even if like, in New York, you never know who you're going to run into. But let's say you're in Vietnam. You may not run into someone that you know, but it doesn't mean that you don't carry yourself with respect, that you don't take care of yourself, you know, that you're not clean, you're not presentable, always presentable. So at least from where we come from.
Yeah.
So with that being said, those standards carry into my work. So when I make and design something, I think about those things and say, well, no, not only what would I wear, but what would people that I associate with wear? You know, and what are our standards? And yeah, so maybe you may not see like a thread or something inside the shoe, but I know it's there. And I know that our standards are a certain way and they need to be at a certain point. So I want to make sure that it reaches that level and it's always there. If not, I scrap it. I have no problem taking this and throwing it in the garbage and restarting. None.
Yeah. And I think about New York too, and the tri-state in general. It's very dense, very overpopulated. So, you know, we like to stand out. We like to be like, we want to have those kind of break your neck moments like, what do you got on his feet?
Yes,
Like, oh,
yes.
you know what I mean? And it's just how we were brought up. And it could be a simple thing. It could just be a white tee with just those fresh J's that you got, and we still breaking necks. No jewelry, no nothing. But it is something about this area where there's so many people that we do those little things to kind of separate ourselves from people. And we're walking around a lot more than in other areas. So it's like, you know, in other states, it's like you go from your house to your car and then to your location. Where in New York, we kind of move around a little bit. So we're walking, we're on the train, jumping back and forth. So we're seeing physically a lot more from head to toe. So where you're in the car, you don't have to worry about what's on your feet. But I'm in the city, I'm moving around. So you know what I mean? At the very least, I don't need to spend $500 on my shoes or $800 on my shoes or $1,000, but they gotta be clean. You know what I mean? And if I want to do that, if I want to spend a little extra, I can do that too, because that's a part of the culture. We like to stand out, you know.
But that's why I can't get down with like these. I call them like, you know, like it's like 2 season or 1 season areas, man. Like, you know, like Miami or LA, man. They got 1 season. I can't do that, man. Like it's like I can't wear chanclas every day with some shorts. I can't do it, man. It's like we're from New York, like we're from up here, we're from up top. You have to, yeah. You gotta have 4 seasons, man. We have 4 seasons here, and each of those seasons represents something. And it's like I can't just be in some shorts and a tank top all year round, like you said, jumping out of cars. That's not what we represent up north. It's like I can't do it.
You like to move around, man. You like to move around.
Exactly.
And move around in style, man. For real.
Right. And also believing in yourself too. Like one thing I'll say about China is like it really opened my eyes onto what is possible.
Right.
And I mean that in the most honest way, because, you know, coming from our side, like I said, our standards are very high.
Right.
So sometimes we put limits on ourselves and say, no, there's no way I could do that. Like, I don't have a factory. I don't have this. You come up with excuses. You're listening to other people tell you that something can't be done. But then when you go to China, me personally, I've walked in on people making flat screen TVs in like apartment buildings. I'm talking about full on 50-inch flat-inch TVs. And it's like 2 people, they got all the components and they're putting it together. So if this guy can make flat screen TVs with his man, and I can't make something, like I should be ashamed of myself. So they kind of like help give me the spark. Like, wait a minute, like I'm placing these like false limits on myself, and I see that there is no real limit. Yeah. And it's not even to be cliche. It's just when you open your eyes to what's really possible, you can do it. You can figure out a way to do it. You know, it may not be easy. But you figure it out and you work and then you build, and there's just these small steps that you work towards and say, okay, if I do it this way, maybe I can, you know, figure out a way to sew these shoes with a flat sewing machine rather than a post bed. You know, maybe I can find someone who has an embroidery machine to maybe like do some new designs for me. That doesn't mean you have to go spend $15,000 on a sewing machine or an embroidery machine. It means you leverage your resources and you figure out ways to still accomplish your goals, but you're still making things, you're still doing it. And that's like 99% of the battle is just working, building.
Man, that's powerful. And a lot of times we do marginalize ourselves based off of fear. And as you said, other people's experiences, because they don't want you to be hurt because whatever they did didn't work out. So unfortunately, they push that on you. And sometimes they don't even mean to discourage, but it can be discouraging when you have a goal, you have a dream, and somebody says, you can't do that. I tried it, you can't do it. You know, everybody's different. Everybody has a different kind of energy. And when it comes from people that have actually accomplished those things and you're saying it, it's really not cliche. It sounds that way, but it's true. Like you put your mind to it, you grind, you wrestle hard. It's not going to be easy, but there are certain things that you can pull off. And it really does start off with that self-belief. And then sometimes seeing people making something out of nothing and realizing that as poor as we are here, we do have more resources than a lot of other people. So that's an incredible thought, man. And speaking of which, when I was on your site, there's a statement that speaks about multiculturalism. So why is that so important to your life, your personal life, and your brand as a whole? What is the meaning behind that?
Well, I'll give you an example. For instance, like I grew up in a lot of different neighborhoods in New York. One of those was Edenwood Projects, right? So at one point in my life, I lived in Edenwood Projects as a kid. And it wasn't a predominantly Spanish or Latino neighborhood. So there was some mixing, but it was really just one. So I'm comfortable, and as an example, I'm comfortable around different groups because of all the different neighborhoods I've lived in the city. So when I get to China, right, for instance, and I'm in this part that's like predominantly African, these neighborhoods, that's where they do lineups and shape ups like that. We like, you know, they so I'm not gonna go to a Chinese person and go, you know, shape up my beard. I'm gonna go, you know, to where we go.
Right.
And it blew their mind. I had people from the African community tell me, and this is real, I'm not making this up. They said, why do you hang out with Black people? They told me this, I'm telling you, flat out, and they were serious. These is like people from Africa. They was like, why do you hang out with Black people? Because when they see me, they don't see a Latino. They don't see someone who's Caribbean. They have no idea what that is. They don't know anything about that. You know, sometimes we forget about, you know, how we're mixed and we assume everyone knows that. Everyone doesn't know that.
So true. Yeah.
And they asked me that. They were like, why do you come to our barbershops? Why do you hang out with us? I said, because you're me.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, because you're me. I was like, we're the same.
Right. Yeah.
And then they look at me and they're like, you know, and they're kind of like, it's like,
right.
No, yeah, we're the same.
Really are, yeah.
And it blew their mind because they're coming from this culture where it's just Black folk, and we're not used to, you know, and we're not used to that in a lot of ways from the U.S. Yeah. But they're looking at me like, no, like you hang out somewhere else, not here. I'm like, no, this is home. This is where I belong. This is where I am. And I really had to just think about like my lens and how it is affected by Western culture. Think about people from the continent, people from Europe, like even Eastern Europe. They just have no idea about how mixed up we are. And in a lot of ways, it's and mixed up in a good way, right?
Absolutely. It's like,
so that's why I think of multiculturalism a lot, especially in my work, because it's like, I have to be aware of the fact that my lens is open and I want to bring in and bridge different concepts, different ideas, different cultures. And maybe that'll help someone else bridge and say, wow, how did he pull that? It wasn't cultural appropriation because I am the culture. You know, I represent the culture and I represent these different bridges. Like, you know, like I am a Latino Puerto Rican man, but what is Puerto Rican? Like Puerto Rican is Black, Spanish, Native, like Taino Indian. It's all these different things. There's all these different themes. And maybe some people don't accept those themes, but I do. And I know what it means. And I hope I embody those things. And if I can just like share that with one person, either through my work or just speaking to someone, then that's like something that I accomplished, you know, and I'm proud of it.
Very true. And it's all being done in a very organic way. You know, this is like, it's normal for us to just interact how we interact, but to them, it's not, because they just don't know, but it's it's done in a very organic way. And I love the fact that you were able to bring some enlightenment to them, you know, so that they have that understanding as well, because I think that cultural ignorance, it kind of keeps us all separated, because it's all, oh, they feel like that about us without really knowing. It might have been one person from a foreign entity that said, we don't like Americans, or we don't like this, we don't like that. And then we kind of just generalize. And I'm very careful with that, because as a Black man, it happens to me sometimes, you know, where I get stereotyped and generalized. So that's what I love about your mission, because I feel like it definitely will open up people's eyes to even dream, to say, you know what, that might be something that I can do, even if it doesn't happen right away. It's that you planting that seed that, yes, this can be done. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, but yes, it can be done. So all the way salute to you for that, man. All the way.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I just want them to know, like, even for instance, like studying abroad, man, man, I encourage anyone who has any interest in just going abroad, do it. There's so many opportunities. Like, you can go to Germany and study for free. Like, and I'm talking about like 4-year degrees, graduate school, PhDs for free, man. Maybe you might need to learn a little German, but that's okay. That's a part of the journey, right? Mm-hmm. Learn a little German, have some experiences. Go to Berlin. Berlin is an amazing city. The art scene over there is vibrant. Like, the people are just like, they're very like welcoming and open. Then maybe that can bridge to a different part of Europe. It's like Hungary has free education, you know, scholarship programs for Americans. Of course, China does. So it's like, actually, Germany has the largest scholarship program in the world, to be honest, if you look it up. Like, no one offers more scholarships to foreigners than Germany. So that tells you, it's like, you know, if that's your doorway into Europe, then go for it. Like, or what would you rather do? Rack up $80,000 in debt, or would you like to go to Germany for free, get a stipend, you know, have your room and board paid for? You just pay for the flight. And you got a lifetime. Yeah, you have a lifetime of experiences. It's like, we need to be smarter. I mean, and it's no fault. It's no fault to the community, because there's not a lot of people doing it.
Exactly.
So I understand, but hopefully someone can hear your words, your message, and my words and my experiences, and look at that and say, wow, you know, this is something that we can really do.
Yeah, and that's why this interview was so important to me, man. And I'm grateful that we finally had the chance to do this, because I you know, your experiences have been extremely educational for me. And as I'm an educator as well, I work with young people. I want to show them this. Like, this is one of the interviews that I want them to see, because I want them to start thinking outside of the box. Because, you know, unfortunately, there's so much that happens in our neighborhoods. It's hard to break out of that 4-block radius, because everything is happening in like a pressure cooker. So you don't even have time to even care about what's happening outside your neighborhood. Forget your state. You know, I have students that are in Jersey City that have never been to Manhattan. It's like a far off place to them. I'm like, you realize Manhattan's 15 minutes away via path. I'm like, really? Right. Like, yeah, like you can go explore, you know. So this interview was so important for me. Speaking about you know, global experiences, I wanted to ask a little bit about the pandemic. You know, how has it affected your business? Has it been not so much of a positive thing, but have you been able to still flourish throughout the pandemic? I guess is the best way to ask that.
Well, it's definitely changed things. And in some ways, some of the negatives outside of the obvious is like the supply chain disruption. So, for instance, like ordering supplies, equipment, you know, even manufacturing small items, like it's a little difficult to get that done, because maybe, for instance, you put in an order and Walmart buys up all the containers, so no one is shipping goods. So now you have to wait 3 weeks to, you know, receive your goods. But maybe there's a show. Like, I did a show in Houston, and I'm in Houston, and my goods like arrived the day before I was leaving. I had that order in like a month before. But you see, it's like, you know, things can happen, so you have to plan for that. And it's tough, because, you know, the pandemic, it could be a virus outbreak. Like right now, you know, there's an outbreak in Vietnam, so Nike has 2 factories shut down. So, you know, that's even Nike, right, has to deal with, you know, these supply chain disruptions, and on a smaller scale, I do too. So, and in some ways, that helps me on a local level, because if I can find local suppliers, then I'm kind of the only game in town for certain things. So, you know, that also works for me, because now people have to look more inwards rather than towards Asia. And, you know, I try to do that also. Like, I actually do some manufacturing with Mexico. So I have some supplies in Mexico, and I've looked towards Mexico and other places in Latin America, because it's like, look, these guys are right here.
Right.
You know, and they can make things too. And they have good quality. They can match the Chinese, maybe not so much in the like most rock bottom price. Right. But they understand our laws. They understand our quality, our demands. They understand us to a certain extent. And in a lot of ways, it can be more agreeable than working with some of these Asian countries. So it definitely forces you to think outside the box in a good way and maybe expand your network.
Very interesting. Shout out to Mexico, man.
Mexico, man. Like, look, people don't. Before NAFTA, Mexico was China, man. It's like people really don't understand that. Like, before Bill Clinton ratified NAFTA, Mexico was China, man, and they can make great things at a reasonable price, man. It's just like people forgot about them just because the doors opened up to China in the 2000s. But hey, Mexico's right there, man. They're willing to work with us, and the shipping time is a lot faster.
Yeah.
They get back to it. They understand English for the most part, and if you speak Spanish, even better. It's a short flight away. If you want to meet them in person, it's not a problem. So, hey, nothing wrong with Mexico, man. Mexico's a great place to do business.
Yeah. Wow, man. Thank you for the jewels, bro. Thank you for the jewels. What is up next for leblam.com? You were going to have all your information definitely posted on the screen. What is the next thing that you are working on? And how can people, get in touch with you just in general?
Well, one thing that I really wanted to touch is bespoke suiting. So even like some made to measure work, and really, I've been studying with a master tailor for the past few years, and his name is Man Henry. He's in Harlem. The place is called So Harlem. It's a business incubator. It's a great place if you want to learn traditional, like, tailoring techniques.
Awesome.
And for instance, because in the city, no one is teaching this stuff. Like, if you look up, like, tailoring and garment construction, where you have to go to FIT, you have to look at Parsons. That's a little cost prohibitive, man. These places are expensive.
Yeah.
But talking to someone who actually cares and is interested in your education, you can learn some things, and even just leveraging the network, right? Like, you can learn some things off YouTube University. It's not the best, but you can definitely leverage and kind of like fill some gaps. But you of course always want to teach you for certain things, in person situation. But yeah, I'd love to do some more garments. I have some capsules like in mind. Definitely some like urban pop Latino like situations going on. Definitely inspired by like the experiences we have up north. Sometimes in Cali I get in trouble because it's a different kind of Latino experience. And when I mean Latino, I'm really speaking for just like what we as in like urban tri-state culture, like Cafe Bustelo, Goya, stuff like that. Like, this is like, these are like icons that doesn't matter where you're from. People mess with Goya beans. People buy Bustelo coffee, like, whether you're Latino or not. Like, everyone messes with that stuff. So for us, like, it's synonymous with just like urban culture, I think. So that's like, Warhol had Campbell's, we have Bustelo.
Right.
So, that's kind of how I think of it. But, of course, the spelling in the word is Latino, so, I can say it. But, it really belongs to everyone. It's our urban culture.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that inspires me.
Well, listen, man, I definitely appreciate your time today, man. And I also saw that your site was connected to FutureWorks NYC.
Yes. So I'm a FutureWorks alumni.
Okay.
FutureWorks. So in China, I also made some, because in China I learned how to manufacture and make and work in conjunction with factories and actually get in the mix. And maybe I'll share that at some point. But I got a ton of footage in like Chinese, like, factories of all different kinds, man. Like, when the hoverboards were real hot, I was in the hoverboard factories, like, putting motherboards together, man. It's crazy. Like, it's like, yeah, man. Like, I could tell you if the batteries are bust. If you pop a hoverboard right now, I could tell you if that has the battery that's going to explode or not, because there's certain ways you could tell. Yeah, they showed me everything, man. But like, that's the beauty of that place. Like, China, man. They're depending on how far you want to take your education, they will open the doors to you. They'll share with you and they'll teach you. But it all depends on how far you want to go, right? So the in terms of that, I learned so much about manufacturing that when I returned, New York State had some program called FutureWorks where they're looking for companies to incubate that was interested in local manufacturing. So yeah, that's right up my alley. I was like, I have to talk to these guys. Wow. So I went to an open house and I pitched them the Blam, and they were for it, and they were like, look, we want you to come in, and we're leverage our resources and our network. So this is of course right before the pandemic. So yeah. So that it is what it is in that regard. But it was a wonderful experience. I met some great people. They connected me to some awesome resources. I went down to Kickstarter headquarters over near Greenpoint. I sat down with them, and there was a couple projects that had to be stalled that were connected to the the Future Works network. But I plan to revisit those soon.
Wow. And the Future Works NYC, is that another like non-for-profit, like free program that people can, not necessarily free, but that they can take a look into?
Absolutely. Like if you have an idea and there's something that you want to pitch and you want to manufacture, because their main thing is they want people who are looking to manufacture locally as much as possible. So they're looking for local companies who want to make local solutions for like issues that are important. It doesn't necessarily mean important to them, right, but just that you have a message, and it involves something with like the local community. So if you have some part of what you're looking to do that's involving New York State, FutureWorks is a great resource. They have, they'll connect you to patent lawyers. They had seminars on supply chain. Okay, some of it I knew, but I mean, like, it was good to be able to like leverage and work with different companies. Like there was one guy, he was in the program. He launched a lamp. He had a lamp that he created. He made a prototype here in the US. He figured out how to source it in China. And for small scale, he could do locally, and then large scale, he would go overseas. And he did $60,000 on a Kickstarter campaign. Wow. Yeah, he did $60,000, and his advertising budget was like, I think he told me it was around like $5,000. So between his prototype costs and his advertising budget, he figured out how to raise $60,000, and then take that, which of course, he was able to lock in, his margins and fulfill his, his orders. He can turn that around and now offer a next iteration of this product. So, there is funding out there if you know how to leverage your network and figure out how to market your concepts and your ideas.
And ultimately, it also helps to strengthen the community as a whole, because it can offer opportunities to people. And even, like I said, just the education process of people just learning. And it's like, wow, I can do that too. I think it'll be a great thing for our neighborhoods, man. And it already is, bro. Like,
absolutely.
Man, I appreciate you, bro. I really do.
I appreciate you, man.
Man.
I'm trying. Look, I'm trying, man. You're an inspiration to me, man. You was out there on the front lines for a long time, bro. I commend you. I see the work you're putting in, man, and I hope those kids appreciate you, man, because you're a gem.
Thank you, brother. Really? They do. They definitely do, man. And y'all, I appreciate the build. And like I said, man, we are supporting you and your site and all your entrepreneurial efforts. Everybody that's watching this right now, go to leblam.com. Check out my brother. Follow him on Instagram as well, @leblam. And we're going to have all your information here, bro. But thank you for your time tonight, brother. And thank you for the inspiration. And I look forward to continue building with you, man. And we're going to put this interview out. We're going to promote it, man. And once again, I appreciate you, bro, all the way, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Doug, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, bro. All right, Jay. So I'll holler at you soon, bro. And I'll be in touch with you as I edit and put this together, brother.
I got you.
Big salute.
All right.
LeBlam in the house. JG. I'll holler at you, brother.
Thank you.
Peace,
all right.
man.